The sky above Earth grew dark, not with clouds, but with something much worse. The Imperial fleet, an armada of thousands of ships, emerged from the deep void of space. Each ship was a massive, intimidating structure, like dark monoliths that blotted out the stars. Their hulls shimmered with metallic surfaces, and their engines rumbled with a power that could shake the very core of any planet they chose to conquer. It was a sight that filled the hearts of every living being on Earth with fear. The invaders, led by their ruthless commander, General Krask, had only one goal: to conquer Earth. The galaxy was theirs to control. But this small blue planet had resisted their influence for far too long. They had watched and waited for the perfect moment to strike. Now, that moment had arrived. Their weapons were far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined, and their numbers were overwhelming. It was a simple mission: obliterate Earth's defenses, and claim the planet for their empire. As the fleet entered Earth's orbit, the first wave of scouts was dispatched to assess the situation. General Krask watched from his command ship, feeling a sense of arrogance and confidence. They were invincible, or so he thought. His fleet had crushed countless worlds without breaking a sweat, and Earth would be no different. But as the first scout ships entered Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. A strange energy pulse rippled through space, and one by one, the scouts disappeared from the fleet's sensors. The scouts had been taken out by an unseen force. General Krask gritted his teeth. What was this? Had Earth hidden some form of weaponry that could fight back? Send in the next wave, Krask ordered, his voice cold and commanding. Show these humans that they stand no chance. A second wave of ships, larger and more powerful, descended upon Earth. Their mission was simple: make an example of the humans. They would burn the cities, destroy any resistance, and take control of the planet's resources. Earth would fall just as easily as the others had. But again, something strange occurred. As the invader ships descended, something inside Earth's atmosphere began to interfere with their technology. The ships flickered and faltered, their systems glitching unexpectedly. General Krask watched in confusion as one of the ships in the second wave suddenly veered off course and crashed into the ocean below. This was not part of the plan. This was not how it was supposed to be. Report, Krask shouted at his officers. What happened? Sir, we are encountering interference from Earth's atmosphere, one of his officers responded. Our systems are being disrupted by a force field, perhaps. It is unlike anything we've seen before. Krask clenched his fists in frustration. Prepare to launch the ground assault teams. We'll take this planet the old-fashioned way. But Krask didn't know it, yet humanity had a secret that had been hidden for centuries, buried beneath the surface of the Earth, waiting for this very moment. The interference the fleet was experiencing was no accident. Earth had been preparing for an invasion long before the Imperials arrived. In underground bunkers scattered across the world, the human resistance was already mobilizing. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were Earth's best and brightest, trained in secret, away from the eyes of the invaders. They had been preparing for this moment ever since the first alien ships were spotted in Earth's orbit decades ago. The world's greatest minds had developed new technologies that could withstand even the most advanced alien weaponry. As the Imperial fleet continued its descent, it was clear that Earth was not as defenseless as they had believed. The resistance forces had activated hidden energy shields around the planet, and the interference that had caused so many of their ships to malfunction was the result of these Earth-made defense systems. The Imperial fleet was beginning to realize that Earth had more than just humans with advanced technology. It had hoped up above Earth. General Krask watched as the sky began to light up, not with explosions, but with something strange in energy, pulse unlike any he had ever seen before. It grew larger and more intense, and it seemed to be emanating from the planet itself. Impossible, Krask whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. How could they have developed something like this? In that moment, the first of Earth's fighters, piloted by the best and brightest of humanity, broke through the Imperial fleet's defenses. These were not the regular soldiers. They were Earth's last line of defense. Each one was equipped with a ship powered by the same technology that was disrupting the invaders' weapons. With precision and skill, they took down the first wave of Imperial ships with ease. Krask's eyes widened. No, this cannot be. We are the Empire. We are invincible. But as he stared at the battle unfolding before him, he realized that Earth was not the weak, helpless planet he had expected. The humans were not the primitive beings they had once believed them to be. They had underestimated Earth, and now they were about to pay the price. The once imposing Imperial fleet now hovered over Earth, and their confidence began to crack. General Krass clenched his fists as he stared at the chaos unfolding in the atmosphere. The initial strike had been met with unexpected resistance, and now, the humans were fighting back. The first wave of Earth's defenders had managed to take down several scout ships, a feat that Krass hadn't even considered possible. Earth was supposed to be a peaceful, primitive world easy to conquer, but what he saw before him told a different story. "Activate all weapon systems," Krass barked, his voice sharp and commanding. "We will crush them beneath our boots. They are nothing compared to us." But as the command was issued, another shockwave reverberated across the fleet. The interference from Earth's defense systems had increased. It wasn't just affecting their technology, it was spreading, quickly and relentlessly. The advanced targeting systems that once guided their weapons now flickered, and their once mighty ships were struggling to maintain control. Krass watched as another of his fleet's ships veered out of formation, spiraling uncontrollably before slamming into a nearby asteroid. It was chaos. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans weren't backing down. The small fighter jets piloted by the resistance forces darted through the atmosphere, evading laser blasts with practiced precision. Each pilot had been trained for years in secrecy, knowing that this day would come. They had never doubted their ability to fight back, but even they were stunned by how well their technology was working. The energy pulses that had disrupted the Imperial fleet were not just defense mechanisms. They were weapons of incredible power, ones that even the most advanced invaders hadn't anticipated. Inside the command room of one of the human fighter jets, a young pilot named Lena gripped the controls. She had been raised in the underground bunkers, training alongside others who had been prepared for this day. The sight of the Imperial fleet, a monstrous force meant to crush Earth, was not new to her, but what was new was the chance to fight back. She had spent her entire life in the shadows, knowing that someday her skills would be put to the ultimate test. Today was that day. As Lena guided her fighter through the chaos, she saw a massive Imperial ship, a dreadnought, loom ahead, its weapons targeting the ground below. She knew this ship was one of the most powerful in the fleet, capable of leveling entire cities with a single blast. But Lena wasn't afraid. She had a job to do. With a swift flick of her wrist, she activated her fighter's cloaking system and veered sharply to the left. She could feel the adrenaline surge through her veins as she positioned herself behind the enemy ship. The Imperial ship fired a blast of energy, but it was off target thanks to the interference that was now wreaking havoc on their systems. This was the moment Lena had been waiting for. With a quick pull of the trigger, her fighter's plasma cannons unleashed a barrage of fire, striking the ship's weak points. Sparks flew, and the massive dreadnought trembled under the assault. "Got it," Lena shouted to herself, her heart racing. The ship had taken damage, but the battle wasn't over yet. She wasn't alone. She could hear the voices of her fellow pilots over the comms, working in perfect unison to dismantle the invaders' attack. They had the element of surprise, and that made all the difference. But Krass wasn't about to give up. From his flagship, he saw the damage spreading through his fleet. His eyes narrowed in disbelief. How could this be happening? His armada, so powerful and so sure of victory, was crumbling before a handful of human pilots. He'd underestimated them, yes, but he was not the kind of leader to back down when facing adversity. His forces would regroup, they would retaliate, and Earth would fall. He activated his communications link to his fleet, rallying his soldiers. "Listen to me," he roared, his voice booming across every ship. "This is not a defeat. This is just the beginning of their downfall. Our technology is far superior to anything they've thrown at us. Regroup and prepare for a counter-offensive. We will make them regret ever standing in our way." As the fleet began to reorganize, Lena and the rest of the resistance fighters pushed forward, aware that they couldn't let up for a moment. The tide had shifted in their favor, but the war was far from over. The humans had the upper hand for now, but they knew better than to get complacent. The Imperial fleet wasn't just a group of soldiers, it was an empire, with resources and technology beyond imagination. They would keep coming, and the fight would get even harder. Just as Lena prepared for another round of attacks, a new voice came through the comms. It was her commander, an older man who had seen many battles, both human and alien. "Lena," he said in a steady, calm tone, "we've detected a new fleet coming from the edge of the system. Reinforcements, we need to hold them off until we can. Regroup, can you do it?" Lena paused, her heart sinking for a moment. More invaders. The odds were already stacked against them, but she didn't hesitate. "I'll hold them off. We'll all hold them off." With that, she and her fellow pilots dove back into the fray, fully aware that the battle had only just begun. As Krass's forces continued their retreat and regroup, The humans were proving one thing: no matter how overwhelming the odds, Earth would not go down without a fight. The battle raged on, and what had once seemed like an unstoppable force from the Imperial fleet now appeared to be in disarray. Earth's resistance was proving far more formidable than anyone, including General Krass, had anticipated. With each passing minute, the Imperial fleet's resolve weakened, and their control over the battlefield began to slip. General Krass was furious. He stood in his command center, fists clenched, watching the data streams flicker across the holographic screens. Every part of his fleet that had been touched by the mysterious interference was either malfunctioning or outright destroyed. It was as though some invisible hand was controlling the outcome of the battle, and it wasn't his. The arrogance that had fueled his belief in the Empire's invincibility was quickly turning into something much darker dread. "Deploy the next wave," Krass barked, his voice trembling slightly. "The humans will regret defying us. We have more than enough power to end this." But as he spoke, a chilling realization settled over him. Earth had more than just a few fighters and a few weapons. It had something that no one could have predicted: a new kind of weaponry that was unlike anything the Imperial fleet had ever encountered. Down on Earth's surface, hidden beneath layers of soil and rock, ancient technology long forgotten by the human race was waking up. For centuries, humanity had wondered about the strange signals they'd detected from deep space. They had never been able to understand them fully, but now they realized what they were: messages from a long-lost civilization, messages that had been intended for humans, messages that held the key to defeating invaders like the Imperial fleet. This ancient technology was Earth's last hope, and now it was activating, just in time to help in the fight. In underground bunkers, a team of scientists had been working tirelessly for years to decipher the technology. They had made breakthroughs slowly but surely, and now they stood at the controls of the most powerful weapon Earth had ever seen. The new energy pulses, energy that seemed to flow directly from the planet itself, could disrupt not just the Imperial fleet's weapons but their very essence. It was as if Earth was fighting back with the very life force of the planet itself. Lena, now one of Earth's leading pilots, had just witnessed an explosion that obliterated a dreadnought in her sector. The Imperial ships, once imposing in their size and strength, were now falling apart in the face of Earth's unexpected resistance. But Lena knew they couldn't rest. The Imperial fleet would adapt, and soon they would strike back with everything they had. "Commander, we've detected a massive fleet coming from the other side of the moon," Lena said into her communicator, her voice calm but urgent. "It's bigger than anything we've seen before. They're gearing up for a full-scale assault." The commander's voice crackled through the static, his response grim. "We've got no choice. We must push forward, activate the ground weapons, and prep the next phase. Earth cannot fall today." Lena's grip on the controls tightened as she turned her fighter towards the incoming Imperial fleet. The energy pulses from Earth's hidden technology were still disrupting the Imperial ship's systems, but she knew that wouldn't last forever. The fleet's commanders would soon learn to adapt to the interference, and when they did, would be in even more danger. But the humans had more tricks up their sleeves. The ancient technology wasn't just a defensive measure, it had a secondary function, one that the Imperial fleet hadn't even begun to comprehend. Earth's scientists had discovered how to harness the planet's natural energy sources, using them to charge weapons that could not only disrupt enemy systems, but also temporarily disable entire fleets. As Lena soared through the sky, she saw the massive fleet of Imperial ships growing larger in her view, and her heart skipped a beat. The enemy had regrouped. They were charging forward with full force, determined to crush humanity's resistance once and for all. But just as she prepared for the worst, something unexpected happened. From the ground below, a massive pulse of energy shot upwards, striking one of the largest Imperial ships. The ship trembled, and its systems went dark. The crew on board scrambled in panic as their once mighty vessel slowly descended into chaos. Another pulse struck, and yet another ship fell, incapacitated by the powerful, invisible force. It was Earth's final weapon, a weapon that now worked in tandem with the advanced fighter jets, creating a wall of power that even the Imperial fleet could not breach. The humans were fighting back, and they were doing it with a power they never knew they had. In the heart of the Imperial fleet, General Krass could only watch as his ships began to fall, one by one. "This is impossible," he muttered, his mind racing. "We are the Empire. We should not be losing." But he could no longer deny it. The humans had discovered a power greater than any weapon he could wield. Their spirit, their will to survive, was unlike anything he had ever encountered. And now, it was the very thing that would bring his armada to its knees. "Retreat," Crash roared, but his orders fell on deaf ears. The Imperial fleet, once a powerful force of conquest, was now in complete disarray. The ships that had been designed to crush planets were falling apart before the humans' newfound power, and their systems were no match for Earth's relentless defense. Lena's fighter soared through the sky, her heart racing as she watched the Imperial fleet retreat. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of triumph. Earth was holding its ground. The once impervious invaders were now nothing more than a shadow of their former selves, and they had underestimated the resilience of humanity. But as Lena glanced at the retreating fleet, she knew this was far from over. The Imperial fleet had only just begun to understand the might of Earth's hidden power. They would return, and when they did, the fight would be even more fierce. But for now, Earth had won a critical victory, one that proved humanity would never be subdued, no matter the odds. The Imperial fleet, once so confident in its overwhelming superiority, was now staggering, reeling from the unexpected resistance it faced on Earth. The once invincible invaders had underestimated humanity's determination, and as the battle raged on, the Imperial Armada seemed to lose its grip on the battlefield. Ships that once held the power to obliterate entire cities were now helpless, flickering and sputtering under the weight of Earth's growing might. General Crash stood at the helm of his flagship, his knuckles white as he gripped the command chair. The chaos unfolding around him was almost beyond belief. His fleet had been designed to conquer, to crush and dominate, yet here they were, struggling against a planet that had once seemed so insignificant. The humans had activated their most advanced weapons, their secret defense systems, and something else, something that wasn't entirely understood yet, was aiding them. It wasn't just technology. It was as if the very soul of Earth was fighting back. Crash's eyes narrowed. He had to find a way to regain control. His orders echoed through the fleet, trying to rally his forces. Regroup. All ships form a defensive perimeter. We cannot let them push us back. But it was too late. The humans were already pushing forward, using the confusion and chaos to their advantage. Lena, one of the most skilled pilots among the human forces, had been in the heart of the battle from the very beginning. Her pulse raced as she soared through the skies, weaving in and out of Imperial ships, picking off one target after another with the precision of a seasoned fighter. The new weapons Earth had unlocked were a game-changer, and Lena wasn't about to waste the opportunity. As she flew, she caught sight of one of the largest Imperial ships, a battlecruiser that had been at the front of the fleet's offensive. From the smoke of its previous assault, the ship was slow, sluggish, its once immense shields flickering weakly. It was vulnerable. Lena's fingers danced over the controls, guiding her fighter into position. The guns crackled to life, and Lena heard her commander's voice, calm but urgent. Lena, take it down. We can't let that cruiser get back into formation. Lena didn't hesitate. She was already locked onto the ship, and with a flick of her wrist, she activated the targeting system. A steady stream of energy blasts erupted from her fighter's cannons, each one hitting the cruiser's weak points. The ship shook violently as the shields flickered and collapsed. But that wasn't enough. Lena knew that the cruiser's sheer size and strength could still make it a formidable foe if left unchecked. She activated the final weapon, a modified EMP pulse that Earth's scientists had been working on in secret. The blast was powerful, capable of disabling an entire fleet's communications and weapon systems, and it was aimed directly at the heart of the cruiser. The pulse hit, and for a brief moment, everything went still. Then, the cruiser's massive engines sputtered out, and its weapon systems went dark. The ship was dead in the water. Lena watched as it slowly drifted, useless and powerless. The Imperial fleet had just lost one of its most crucial assets, and with it, the momentum they had been desperately clinging to. For a moment, Lena allowed herself to feel a sense of triumph. The humans had not only held their ground but had dealt a major blow to the invaders. But that victory was fleeting. The retreating Imperial fleet, now leaderless and disorganized, began to regroup for a counteroffensive, and they were furious. On the ground below, the resistance fighters were already preparing for the next phase of the battle. They knew the invaders wouldn't give up easily, but they were ready. They had the element of surprise, and more importantly, they had something the Imperial fleet had never considered: a united front. While the invaders came from distant worlds, Earth's soldiers had something far more powerful on their side. Their home. As the Imperial fleet regrouped and began to launch their final assault, the humans, led by Lena and other pilots like her, prepared for the ultimate showdown. The two sides clashed once more, this time with no room for hesitation. The fate of Earth hung in the balance. In the midst of the chaos, General Krass realized that Earth's strength was not just in their weapons or technology, it was in their spirit. The humans fought with a ferocity that he had never seen before, a fierceness that was only fueled by the need to protect their home. His own fleet, however, lacked that same determination. They were invaders, conquerors without a cause. They fought for power, for dominance. But the humans fought for survival. "Prepare to fire the last wave," Krass ordered, his voice now tinged with desperation. He knew that this was their last chance to break the humans. "We will not retreat. We will take this planet, no matter the cost." But as the final wave of ships descended, something unexpected happened. The ancient technology hidden beneath the Earth's surface began to hum, its energy pulse building to an intensity no one had ever predicted. The entire planet seemed to shake, as though the Earth itself was responding to the threat. Massive energy beams erupted from the surface, directed straight at the Imperial fleet. Each beam struck its target with unrelenting force, disabling ship after ship. Krass watched in horror as his remaining ships were obliterated. One by one, the once proud fleet that had been unstoppable was now nothing more than a wreckage of metal and fire. It was clear now Earth was not just defending itself, it was winning. As the last of the Imperial ships fell from the sky, Lena and the other pilots returned to base, their faces set in determination. The battle had been hard fought, but Earth had emerged victorious. For now they had held their ground against an enemy that had thought them weak, but Lena knew that this was just the beginning. The Imperial fleet might have been defeated today, but their defeat had sent a message across the galaxy. Earth was no longer the helpless planet it once was. The humans had found their strength, and they would defend it, no matter the cost. The war was far from over. The dust had barely settled when a new signal flared across the human resistance's radar systems. Lena sat in the cockpit of her fighter, her fingers still trembling slightly from the intensity of the battle. The enemy was gone at least 4 now, but the war was far from over. The destruction of the Imperial fleet had been a monumental victory, but Earth was only beginning to realize the consequences of what they had uncovered. The ancient technology they had activated wasn't just powerful, it was beyond anything humanity had ever known. "Commander, we're picking up something strange," Lena reported, her voice steady but laced with a note of uncertainty. Her eyes fixed on the blinking red lights on her display. A signal? No. One had anticipated. It was faint, but unmistakable. Another fleet was coming, but this time the signature was unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. The Imperial fleet had been one thing: monstrous, intimidating, but predictable. This new fleet felt different. It was far too advanced, and it was heading straight for Earth. The commander's voice came through the comms, filled with urgency. "What do you mean? Strange. Can you identify the source?" "I'm not sure," Lena said, her brow furrowing. "But whatever it is, it's unlike any fleet we've encountered before. It's not coming from the outer rim of the galaxy. It's almost like it's coming from within the system itself." The silence on the other end of the comm stretched for a few moments before the commander responded. "Get back to base. We need to analyze this immediately. If we're about to face something new, we need to be prepared." Lena didn't need to be told twice. As she turned her fighter around and began heading back to base, her mind raced. Earth had just defeated the Imperial fleet, an enemy that had seemed insurmountable. But now, something else was on the horizon. Could this be another faction? A rogue group, or worse, an even more advanced force that Earth wasn't prepared for? The resistance base, hidden deep underground to avoid detection, was bustling with activity. Scientists, engineers, and military officers worked together, processing the data that Lena had brought back. The atmosphere was tense. While the victory against the Imperials had been decisive, no one in the resistance was foolish enough to think they were safe. The battle had revealed Earth's true potential, but it had also put a target on their backs. The universe had now seen that Earth was not to be underestimated. As Lena entered the command center, she was met by the commander and the lead scientist, Dr. Ava Reynolds, a woman whose expertise had helped decipher the ancient technology they'd been using against the invaders. Her eyes were wide with concern. "We've analyzed the signal," Dr. Reynolds said, her voice tight with apprehension. "The fleet that's coming isn't Imperial. In fact, it's not even from any known galactic empire. We're dealing with something else entirely." Lena felt a chill run down her spine. She had always known that Earth's technology, hidden deep beneath the surface, was extraordinary, but this was different. She had a gut feeling that something far more dangerous was approaching. Dr. Reynolds continued, her face illuminated by the glow of the holographic display. "From what we can gather, This fleet isn't just coming to conquer. They're coming to finish what the Imperials started only. They have technology that makes ours look primitive. They've been watching us for a long time, and now they're coming to take control of what they believe is theirs. Lena's fists clenched. She had been fighting to protect Earth for so long, but this was different. This was a threat that Earth had no experience with, no knowledge of. She had seen humanity rise up against the Imperials, but could they do it again against something far worse? The commander's voice broke through her thoughts. We can't wait for them to reach us. We need to strike first. Get your team ready. This time we're not just defending, we're going on the offensive. Lena nodded, though the weight of what lay ahead pressed down on her. As she left the command center and made her way to the hangar, her mind raced with questions. Who were these new invaders, and why had they waited until now to make their move? Earth had just barely begun to fight back, and now, this new threat loomed overhead. In the hangar, Lena joined her fellow pilots, each of them preparing for another fight. They had all seen the destruction the Imperials had caused, and they knew this would be no different. But there was a new determination in the air. Humanity had learned to fight, to push back against impossible odds. They had found strength they didn't know they had, and now they would need it more than ever. Lena's hands moved quickly as she suited up. Her thoughts focused solely on the mission ahead. There was no room for fear, no time for doubt. The resistance had come so far, and Earth had already proven its resilience. Now, they would have to prove it again. As the pilots prepared for takeoff, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that Earth was standing at a crossroads. They had faced down one threat and emerged victorious, but now they had to face something far more dangerous. The unknown fleet that was coming, whatever it was, would test Earth in ways they could never have imagined. And this time, there would be no surprises, no secrets to hide behind, just the raw, unyielding will to survive. As Lena climbed into her fighter, the engines roared to life beneath her. The cockpit closed around her, and she focused on the mission. The new fleet was getting closer, and they weren't coming to talk. Earth had made its stand. Now it was time to show the galaxy that humanity was not just a speck of dust in the universe. They were a force to be reckoned with, and no one, not even the unknown invaders, would stand in their way. The air in the command center was thick with tension, and the hum of machinery around Lena seemed to amplify the weight of what was coming. The new fleet was on the horizon, its power unknown but undeniable. The resistance had managed to keep their heads above water after the Imperial fleet's defeat, but this new threat was different. The scanners had detected their ships, sleek and ominous, entering Earth's orbit at an alarming speed. They didn't come with the intent to conquer, they came to eliminate. Lena's fighter was prepped and ready. She had flown into battle many times before, but this felt different. The mission was no longer just about survival. Now it was about striking the heart of this new enemy before they could bring their full force to Earth's doorstep. As she sat in the cockpit, the familiar controls beneath her hands felt like a lifeline. Her heart was steady, but her mind raced with questions. Who were these invaders? How had they managed to avoid detection for so long? And why had they waited until now to make their move? The comms crackled to life, pulling Lena out of her thoughts. Lena, we're launching now. The commander's voice was sharp and focused. We need to take the fight to them. Do not hold back. If we give them a chance to regroup, it's over. Lena's grip tightened around the controls as she prepared for takeoff. The other pilots, a mix of seasoned veterans and the next generation of fighters, were already climbing into their ships. There was no fear in their movements, only determination. They had all lost something in the battle for Earth, but that loss had forged them into something stronger, something unbreakable. The last remnants of the Imperial fleet had scattered, fleeing back into deep space, leaving Earth in a fragile peace. But this new threat wasn't going to make the same mistake. These invaders were here to finish what the Imperials had started, and they would not leave until they had Earth under their control. Lena's fighter shot into the sky, cutting through the atmosphere with ease. She joined the rest of the resistance pilots, forming a tight formation as they sped toward the unknown fleet. The light from Earth's sun glinted off the sleek alien ships hovering above the planet. They didn't look like anything the humans had encountered before. Their design was elegant yet terrifying. The kind of ship that was meant to inspire fear rather than admiration. Commander, Lena called into the comms, her voice steady but laced with urgency. We've got visual on their fleet. They're massive. I've never seen anything like this. We know, came the commander's reply. Stay sharp. The moment we make contact, we need to disable their communication systems. If we don't, they'll be able to call for reinforcements. The order was clear. Lena's team had to strike. Quickly and decisively, they had the element of surprise, but for how long? These invaders had been watching Earth, studying them, and now they were here to crush humanity once and for all. The humans could no longer afford to play defense. The formation of fighters split into smaller groups as they dove toward the enemy fleet. Lena was at the front, leading the charge. Her hands moved with practiced precision, guiding her ship toward the first enemy vessel. Her mind was clear, there was no room for hesitation. The fleet ahead of her wasn't just an enemy, it was a symbol of the unknown, a force that could obliterate everything she held dear if she faltered. As she closed in on the first ship, Lena activated the new weapon. Earth's scientists had developed a high-frequency energy pulse designed to target the weak points in the invaders' shield systems. The pulse fired from her fighter, and for a moment, the world seemed to freeze. The massive enemy ship in front of her shuddered, its shields flickering and failing under the strain of the blast. The invaders responded quickly, launching counterattacks in a desperate bid to regain control. Explosions erupted around Lena's ship as she expertly weaved through the chaos, firing back with everything she had. But there was something more than just skill and technology at play now. Every strike, every maneuver felt like a surge of power, as if Earth itself was lending them its strength, guiding their hands in the fight for survival. Her radar pinged with another alert. One of the resistance fighters had been hit. Lena's heart skipped a beat as the signal faded from her screen. Another pilot lost, but there was no time for grief. Earth's fate hung in the balance, and they had to keep pushing forward. The commander's voice came through the comms again, this time with a new urgency. Lena, we've got incoming. Their reinforcements are here. Lena's eyes widened, as the dark void of space seemed to split open, revealing more ships, dozens of them, larger and more powerful than anything the Resistance had faced so far. The invaders were pulling out all the stops now, and Earth was about to face its greatest challenge yet. We can't hold back anymore, Lena muttered to herself. Her hand moved to the weapons control panel, activating the final, most dangerous weapon they had, Earth's ultimate defense. This was a last-ditch effort. If it worked, it would disable the entire fleet. If it didn't, it could be the end of everything. The weapon powered up, a massive surge of energy radiating from her fighter as she aimed it directly at the heart of the enemy formation. She fired. The blast was unlike anything Lena had ever seen. A blinding pulse of light erupted from her ship, cutting through the enemy's ranks with terrifying precision. Several enemy ships were instantly disabled, their systems fried by the pulse's raw energy. The remaining invaders scrambled to regain control, but the damage had been done. But just as victory seemed within reach, the unthinkable happened. The invaders' flagship, a colossal ship at the center of the formation, unleashed a counterattack of devastating power. The shockwave from the blast hit Earth's fleet like a hammer, sending fighters careening through the sky, spinning out of control. The energy pulse that had once been their hope now seemed to be slipping through their fingers. Lena gritted her teeth and fought against the controls, trying to stabilize her ship. "We're not done yet," she muttered under her breath, her resolve harder than ever. The invaders might be strong, but Earth was fighting for something more. This wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a battle for their future, and Earth would not go down without a fight. The battlefield was a storm of chaos. The once immense enemy fleet, battered and broken by Earth's fierce counterattacks, was retreating into the darkness of space. Their flagship, the heart of their power, had been crippled by the force of Earth's weapons, and now only a few scattered remnants of the invaders' armada were trying desperately to escape the inevitable. Earth's forces had been pushed to their limits, but in the end, they had delivered a decisive blow. Yet even as the dust settled, an unsettling feeling lingered in the air. Lena's fighter soared through the wreckage of the Imperial ships, her heart racing. The victory was hard won, but the cost had been great. The squadron had lost some of its best pilots, and even as the remaining enemies fled, the survivors were battered and broken. But they had held Earth's ground. Earth had won this battle. For now, that was all that mattered. As Lena watched the last of the enemy ships disappear into the void, the comms crackled to life again. It was the commander's voice, steady and calm, a beacon of leadership amidst the destruction. "Lena, report," the commander ordered. Lena's fingers tightened around the controls as she glanced at the swirling debris on the radar. "We've done it. The last of their fleet is retreating. The flagship's been disabled, but we've lost several pilots. We need to regroup and assess the damage." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then, the commander spoke again, his voice tinged with a gravity that reflected the weight of the moment. "We've won this battle, but not the war. The invaders are already regrouping, it's not over. Earth may have gained a victory, but they've learned from this fight. They'll come back, and next time, they won't underestimate us. Lena felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had known it all along. This victory was only temporary. Earth had shown it could fight, it could resist, but it had also exposed its greatest strength and its greatest weakness. The invaders would return, they would return stronger. As Lena flew back to base, she couldn't shake the image of the retreating invaders' ships. Their escape wasn't just a retreat, it was a promise. Earth had proven itself capable of standing up to the most powerful forces in the galaxy, but that wasn't enough. The invaders had only just begun to understand what Earth could do. The next time, there would be no surprise. There would be no advantage. The base's hangar came into view, and Lena's heart sank as she saw the damage. Several of the fighters were in need of heavy repairs, and the once bustling area was now filled with wounded soldiers and engineers, working tirelessly to patch up what remained of their fleet. The gravity of their victory seemed to disappear. In the wake of the losses they'd sustained, no amount of celebration could erase the faces of the pilots who wouldn't be coming back. Lena touched down, and as her fighter's engines powered down, she sat in silence for a moment. She had been at the front of the battle, leading the charge, and now she was facing the aftermath. The cost of war was always higher than anyone expected, but it was a price humanity had been willing to pay to defend their planet. They had made their stand, and they had shown the universe that Earth was not a planet to be ignored. As Lena stepped out of her fighter, the weight of exhaustion settled over her. Her body ached from the relentless battle, and her mind was clouded with the faces of the fallen. But even as she walked into the base's command center, there was no time to grieve. The next phase of the war had already begun. Earth had only just scratched the surface of the war that was coming, and they needed every ounce of strength to face it. Inside the command center, the team was already assembling. The scientists, military leaders, and resistance fighters were gathered around a holographic map, analyzing the data from the battle. There were no cheers, no words of triumph. Instead, there was a deep, heavy silence as they realized the enormity of what lay ahead. The fleets retreated, the commander said, his voice calm but filled with the weight of hard-earned knowledge. But we know they won't stay gone, we need to be ready. Lena nodded, stepping forward. What do we know about them? The invaders, how did they get here, and why did they wait until now to attack? Dr. Ava Reynolds, the lead scientist, glanced at the map before her eyes met Lena's. They've been monitoring us for years. They've watched us develop, watched us rise up from the ashes of the Imperial attack. And now that we've shown our strength, they see us as a threat. They've underestimated us once, but they won't make that mistake again. Lena's heart pounded in her chest as the implications settled in. So, they'll be back. But how do we fight them? We don't even know what they're capable of. We'll find out, the commander replied, his voice unwavering. The truth is, we don't know everything about these invaders. But what we do know is this: Earth has become a force, and the galaxy is about to learn that the humans who fought for their survival won't go down without a fight. Lena stood there, staring at the map, her mind racing with possibilities. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Earth had shown it could defend itself, but now it had to face the harsh reality that the universe was not a kind place. And the invaders were not just a distant threat. They were coming for everything Earth had worked so hard to protect. The coming months would be filled with challenges. Earth would need to rebuild, regroup, and strengthen its forces. The humans who had fought in this battle would have to prepare for the next one because there would always be a next one. The universe had seen Earth's power, and the invaders would return, stronger and more determined than ever. But Lena knew one thing for certain: Earth had proven its worth. They had fought back, they had survived. And when the invaders returned, they would find that humanity was no longer the easy target they had once thought. Earth had tasted victory. It wasn't about to let it slip away.